Southern California, and time for the Thursday night D-STAR Roundtable for August 3rd, 2017. This is Mike in 6HKH, your net control. This roundtable is held every Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific Time, 0200 UTC, on XRF 002 Alpha, and a constellation of X-reflectors, including XRF 310 Alpha, XRF 555 Alpha, and XLX 212 Alpha. I want to thank Bob, W6KD, for running the net and taking the helm behind the Golden Roundtable mic last Thursday. Due to my illness, I got a number of emails from stations telling me that Bob did a great job. I was not able to listen. I was in urgent care at the time. So I appreciate knowing that. I didn't get any cabbages thrown at Bob, although one station did remark that it wouldn't be so bad for me to get ill from time to time, and I appreciate that. I think, well, that station won't get a Christmas card from me. So this is the technical net dedicated to D-STAR and Open Digital Systems. It is a group effort. To join a discussion, start a topic, or ask a question, key up when I call for stations. Please remember to not quick key or tailgate. I will pause regularly to let you key up, and I ask that stations do the same when they are participating in the roundtable. Now, we do not take formal check-ins or do a roll call, but that's just to give us more time to talk D-STAR. Net control is online at roundtable.tech, T-E-C-H. So it's all roundtable, all one word, .tech. Just place that in the address field of your favorite browser, and that will take you to our Thursday night D-STAR Roundtable forum board. And there you will find a real-time chat feature called the Shout Box. You can use the Shout Box as you would any other type of real-time chat feature to contact me, as well as to post information relevant to the topic at hand, such as links and quick notes. We ask that stations offering a web address in conjunction with their presentation to post the URL or DNS in the shout box so that those listening now or later can link to that website or document location. So again, to get to the Thursday night D-STAR Roundtable forum board, just type into your browser roundtable, all one word, .tech, T-E-C-H. At the close of the roundtable, tonight's shout box is moved to the shout box history, which can be found above the general roundtable discussion board. Podcast listeners get the shout box downloaded automatically, which is pretty cool, but for those listening to us later on, in whatever recorded medium they're listening to us on, can find the shout box if they want to look at it from any of these nets in the shout box history. Again, it's on the landing page in the general discussion category board. First up is not 60 seconds of D-STAR basics. Frankly, I was a little concerned about being able to be here, and I didn't get time to do 60 seconds, but I will take volunteers if there's something that you think would be worthy of a basic D-STAR topic, and you think you can do so in or about 60 seconds. Let's hear from you, and we'll take you now. Please key up. Well, it's not a surprise, because if I didn't plan on 60 seconds of D-STAR basics, I doubt that anybody else thought about it ahead, and we'll certainly get back on track with that next Thursday. Now it's time for announcements. If you have an announcement for the roundtable tonight, please key up now. Alrighty, didn't see anybody or anything about announcements. If you think of one that you think would be worthy of disseminating to all those listening now or later, feel free to key up and just let me know. Now, I was looking at the shout box for posts. We usually talk about that up front if there are any, and guess what? There aren't any. But I'm sure it'll fill up throughout the night, and we will have them all ready to go to be looked at later on. If people, but if you want to let me know about something, if you find an audio problem, especially if you have a URL or DNS, or you just want to comment on something, use the shout box. Now, I noticed that there are a number of new posts that appeared, looks like mostly last Thursday, although some edits have been done to them since last Thursday. Most are found in the current discussions folder, and I wanted to see if anyone had, or if any of those posters wanted to comment on any of their posts. We have a number of them. That is, by the way, if you go to the forum board, and then take a look towards the top, you'll see current discussions. And if you click on that, then you'll find a number of posts that are new. So if you are a posting station and would like to bring anything that you posted to the attention of those on the roundtable, or if you've read them and you're disturbed by the postings, or you think something's incorrect, or otherwise you just can't figure out why they're there. I mean, sometimes I'm not sure. Of course, I appreciate the posts. It doesn't matter whether we can understand them or not. So, for those that did post in the current the current discussions folder, and you'd like to bring it to our attention, please do so now. Kia.
AA0R.
AA0RX. Hey, finally got a Kia. Thank you. Go ahead.
Roger. Good evening to the net. This is AA0RX, Gary in Fort Collins, Colorado. I'm sorry I missed the first go-around of the invitation for announcements, and the former one is more apropos to me here. So, anyway, Colorado Springs, and specifically Canyon City area, and up in the mountains from Denver and Colorado Springs, has had a high influx of crime at repeater sites, people breaking in and stealing copper. And so, anyway, it was on Ham Nation last night, and I thought I'd bring it to the roundtable's attention and just let anybody know out there that seems to be some kind of goofy group of people that are trying to steal copper and raid mountaintop repeaters. So just be advised. Not much of an announcement, not for happy noise, but anyway, that's what's going on out here. AA0RX, back to the net.
Well, that's pretty interesting that there's a rash of thefts at repeater sites. I don't know if that's just coincidental or people have taken notice. I thought a lot of the repeater sites had closed circuit TV and, tried to record it, whether it was done by one or more of the tenants or by the site owner himself. But I would hope that this might prompt those to put in such a camera. They're getting to be relatively inexpensive, and it's certainly impressive when you do see video of someone in there stealing stuff. So, all right, word of the wise, appreciate it. Anyone else want to get caught up on announcements? Please key up.
Well, like I said, I'd bring something up here, and I'm using the latest version of the Blue DV software. Actually did 2 updates today. We're up to 1.0.09411. He's added a mic gain control and some more options on the DMR side of things, and fixed the mic gain control on DMR and some other improvements. So it's still the pre-beta release control panel now that I'm on now. It's the one by David, PA7LIM. And he also in the background in the setup set up the Ambi server which has an IP address and I believe a port number on it. I haven't got that part to work yet, and this is an announcement and a question at the same time. Does anybody know what the Ambi server is all about? I've heard it talked about briefly in the past, but now I'm really interested because I'm using the Northwest Digital Thumb DV. Thanks for letting me check in here, Mike, and I'll stand by for the response. N3WZU.
All right, Wes. Well, thanks for the update on Blue DV. Just to be clear, which Blue DV are you using? I presume, and I think from last week or 2 weeks ago, you said this was Blue DV for Windows, in which you use it with the Thumb DV or the DV3000U. So, do I have that correct? Back to you, Wes.
That's correct, and it also works with DV Mega. If you're using a DV Mega setup with this control panel, the Fusion works as well. So that's the one I'm working on now. Back to you, N3WZU.
All right, and the question you pose is to get some help on or get a description of the AMBE server and what that has to do with the Blue DV. Do I have that right? Go ahead.
That's correct, Mike. I've never messed with the AMBE servers and only briefly heard them talked about. So, all right, yeah. Hopefully somebody's got at least some insight or a direction where I can find that information. Back to you, N3WZU.
All right, stations with an answer, please, Kia.
W6 K6FED.
I have W6KD and K6FED, so welcome. And again, thank you, Bob. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you running the net. It is, nobody volunteers to do this, and it would have been pretty bad had it just been dead air. So again, I appreciate it. Thanks for being with us tonight, as if you wouldn't. W6KD, go ahead.
Good evening, Mike, on the net. I'm not sure what the nexus between Blue DV and Ambi Server is. Ambi Server itself is a program that there's actually a web page for it on the Northwest Digital website. I'll put it up on the shout box here in a minute, but it's at nwdigitalradio.com/DV3000-Ambi Server, all one word. And that program's been around for some time. It's an open source program module to use the Ambi chip that's in the Thumb DV or the Pi DV if you've got one of those. That allows you to feed a PCM audio stream to your device and get Ambi back, or vice versa. I believe it was incorporated. Originally Ambi Server was a separate program. I believe the code or part of it was incorporated into the IRC DDB suite, particularly in dummy repeater. But I'm not conversant with it really. I've never used it, but that's the context that I know Ambi Server in. As far as how it relates to the Blue DV, I can't say. It could very well be that they're using that term or name for something else, and it's something unrelated to the Ambi Server that Northwest Digital has had out for a number of years now. But anyway, nwdigitalradio.com DV3000-MV server is their website that explains at least that one. So if there's another one out there, news to me. Back to that, W6KD.
Alrighty, appreciate it. Next we say hello to Frank, K6FED. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mike and the group. Yeah, I'm using the Blue DV server software now with the Pi DV sitting on a Raspberry Pi, and pretty much the way it works is the Raspberry Pi is on my network, just sitting off somewhere by itself. But I'm using the Blue DV software on a Windows computer to actually access that server. And currently I'm monitoring both the DMR and the D-STAR side. So Dave has done a pretty good job with the software. The only what he's done is initially you were only able to use the Pi DV software with the Thumb DV. But now, I mean not the Pi DV, but the Blue DV software with the Thumb DV. But now he's added an IP address feature to it. So if you're running the Pi DV hat on a Raspberry Pi, you just put in that IP address and put it somewhere on your network. Open up port 2460, and now it acts as a server. So anybody on your network that's running the software can actually use both the DMR and the D-STAR side. Over.
All right, got it. Anyone else? Please key up. Well, that's all we got for now in 3WZU. Posted there, by the way, for those that are interested in the Blue DV for Windows. There's a support group, and I've posted the URL for that. And W6KD just helped out in the shout box page as well for posting the Northwest Digital. They're both actually Northwest Digital groups, but he posted the web page for the DV3000 AMVE server, so everyone can check that out. So N3WZU, anything further?
Well, remind me not to step on my foot switch to talk on this program, because the foot switch is connected to my Flex radio, and I need to either hit the space bar or click on the icon to be on the air for this program. So just note to self, don't push the foot switch and start talking. But I appreciate all the info. It'll give me something new to learn about, and whether it's something useful for me or not. Thanks a lot, Mike, and we'll pass it back to you. N3WZU.
All right, no problem. Well, you can bring this back up again later on if you like and see if there's anything further about it. There hasn't been much discussion about the AMVE server, and maybe that will come up. I did want to mention, getting back for a moment to the current discussions category on the Roundtable Forum board, that last week there was a discussion about the KB5RAV multimode image being updated. And there was a post from John K6KD that discussed some of that and provided some examples of where to download it and additional information, especially about putting it to use with the DMR gateway. You might want to take a look at that. And also, we were talking about Pi-Star seemingly for a couple, 2-3 weeks on end because it was all the rage. I'm not so sure that it's still in that category, and maybe more people are outraged over it. It seems to have its limitations, but to each their own. There's also a opinion piece that was penned by K6KD about comparing the KB5RAV image with the Pi-Star image. And you might take a look at that to see if in other words, if you're deciding which image to burn, if you don't have multiple hotspots to have the ability to run as many multimode images as you like and compare the two, you might take a look at that. So, one of the things that we do at this point is to ask for stations with follow-up to discussions that we've had over the last week, and probably be better if we go back even in 2 weeks, which would be new information about Pi-Star, anything that's a correction, something that wasn't known at the time it was here on the roundtable, either last Thursday or the Thursday before. We try to take that now. So if you have any further discussion, questions to what you've heard either live or do it recorded, and you're coming to the roundtable tonight saying, hey, a second, I heard this nonsense on the podcast, topic, whatever, and I'd sure like to get that straightened out. Well, this would be a good time to do it because I don't think I'd otherwise call it as a specific topic. So we'll take those stations right now. Please key up. Well, nothing on that, so that's just as well. And I really encourage stations, if there's something that's a topic, especially if it steps off of something you discussed here, not just a quick post, but you don't want to start a thread about a topic, I would use the current discussions folder. Well, of course, you can go into other aspects of the other categories and post on the Roundtable forum board if you like as well. But if it's something fairly recent on the Roundtable, or if there's something that you'd like to start a topic on ahead of the beginning of the net, that would be a great place to put it. That is the current discussions folder. Again, it's at Roundtable, all .tech, T-E-C-H. So I will make note that there was no follow-up discussions from the week. Actually, what I'm doing here. Let's run down a couple of quick things. Any report, anyone who attended a ham fair convention, you'd like to give us on what you saw, found out new, or for that matter, any police activity that took place? Please key up. All right, nothing doing there. Any PowerPoint presentations that are online or YouTube videos that we should watch that caught your attention during this past week or two? Spread the word. Please key up. Well, of the 5 million videos that are uploaded every week or whatever it is, nothing was found. So we will pass on that. Now, what about new gear devices? Did anybody get anything that that's not the correct way to put it. If you ordered something at Dayton or one of the other more recent Ham Fest, whether it be here, perhaps in Germany at the Ham Fair, and you got a device in your hands and you put it in use, there were a fair number of new devices, like D-STAR or Source Digital. Why not tell us about it and what you think? A quick review would appreciate it so we can know perhaps what we should be seeing as far as new gear. Well, any new software or firmware we should consider? We already got the word on the update to the KB5 RAB about the update to BlueDV, at least for Windows. Any else that's been posted on GitHub or otherwise, or perhaps mentioned on one of the Yahoo or IO groups? Spread the wealth. Let us know. Please key up. Well, sorry to say that apparently everybody is current on their software and firmware, and everything is running just fine. Well, let's just get right down to it. One of the things that we've been talking about, not so much me, but the stations that are intimately involved in pursuing true digital transcoding, we call it 4K transcoding, and it truly is 4K as far as I'm concerned. We've been threatening people with providing that here on the Constellation at some point in the future. And we are now, and when I say we, the Roundtable Support Group, and more specifically, the person behind all this, John K6KD, is in test mode. Well, not so much John test mode, but 4K coding in its first iteration, which is to D-STAR, true digital, well, in all transcode, and we've discussed what that is, but we'll certainly be able to do that again tonight. So we have some stations with radios, and we're going to be talking to stations, or me, or whoever, volunteers. I do them, of course, just to listen to see what you guys think on D-STAR. So first, I'm going to hand it over to John K6KD, and let him. I'm sorry, I'm still kind of sick. Let me take my temperature, and I'll be right back. No, John, if you can tell us what you're up to, and let us give a listen. K6KD.
Okay, good evening, Mike and Annette. I'm John K6KD. I am, hopefully my group will cooperate and not be quiet for a little while. I'm on a DMR radio, actually a Terra TR7400, and in a couple of minutes I'll pick up an MV39. I haven't heard the comparison of the radio I'm using is Radio Shack, about $270. The MD390, which is now down to about $129, so I think it's possible to have good quality digital radios, without and be able to get into the infrastructure. Because right now we're getting into installation by connecting to a DMR talk group. Let me reset. Right now the system isn't being deployed yet. It's on a beta system, and so once it's deployed, all the connection information will change. What we're waiting for is the next version XLX software, which will contain support DMR, but will also enable working with a transcoding server. And once that's ready, once the XLX software is formally released, I'm prepared. I have a transcoding server ready that is capable of handling several simultaneous channels at the same time. It's on a high-speed fiber optic line, and my thought is to if the rollout goes as I expect it will, to actually make capacity available to organizations be able to use the transcoding server. Let me just curious on what to put down this one radio, the Terra 7400 and the TYT MD390, and see if there's any difference. So give me just a second. Okay, I'm now on the MD390, and I haven't compared it with the 380, but I think they're very close. I think the main difference is the 390 is a little bit more ruggedized and more waterproofing. I don't know if it sounds better than the 380. I've heard good things about the 380 as well. This particular radio, the 390, you can buy for $129, and the 380 is similar to it. It's about $80 some odd. So opening up a lot of possibilities. So anyway, I know Mike Don WB5EKU is on, but let me pass it back first, and I'm kind of curious as to if you hear any difference between the two radios, the Terra 74 and the MD 390. So. Yeah.
All right, John. Well, here there was the difference was just marginal. Really, it isn't so much the radio. I mean, I guess I'm not surprised that the DMR radio sounds as good as ours, if not better. But more importantly, is that listening to you on D-STAR, which is the setup here, it's the same as the station talking on the D-STAR radio. For those of you listening on D-STAR, which I suppose is everybody, because we haven't signed, or at least not at this, made available the talk group that DMR users can connect to. But when we do, what will happen is, if you're on a DMR radio, you connect to that talk group, and you're connected to the constellation. Plain and simple. And at present, the constellation is connected to a reflector, an XLX reflector, used as part of this testing, beta testing. And it is going to be a little while, not hopefully too long, but we need more software, the software developer, to finish up. John said the hardware, because there's two parts to this, the software and hardware server, when we'll be able to launch this. So, there are other stations, though, part of this testing, and you guys are listening and not able to test in the sense of grabbing DMR radios, but you're certainly able to ask questions when we get done here on your D-STAR radio and listen to, you can ask the stations to transmit on whatever mode you'd like. But WB5 EKU has been testing this for us as well, and I'd like to ask Don to key up and tell us what's going on in DMR. WB5 EKU, go ahead.
N6HKH, WB5 EKU. Kudos to, I mean, he's just done an incredible job with this. I'm on a Nexus 750 right now, and John, I could barely tell any difference between the two radios. I mean, and that's only because I'm listening to the little speaker here on the handheld. A bigger speaker. I honestly don't think there's a difference, so it's really, really well. One of the things that I really like about this is that if you notice on your DMR display, my call sign, DMR display when D-STAR station is talking, their call comes through, so it's really transparent. And we're getting to a point where hopefully in the not too future we'll be able to be transcoding. Oh no, this is really, really incredible system here. Okay, I was a little skeptical again, but the first time it just knocked the chair that the quality is so good. There is a slight bit of delay right now between D-STAR and D-STAR. But if you think about it, I mean, this is going to Europe and back again to be and back. You know, the is incredible. Like, we're on the verge of a very exciting right now. I hope my audio sounds good. I've listened to myself back, and John and I have run some tests, and audio sounded pretty good. Mike, to you, and you know, I have questions, but John's the guy who has the answers also.
AA0 recognized. John, thank you for the testing, AA0RX, by for a minute. I want to see if there are other stations involved in the beta testing that have the talk group, the test talk group, and have been our radio. I'm not sure who all is involved in this. Primarily, this is something that came up fairly late, and thankfully so, because I've been dying to try this out in the sense of listening to it, because I'm a suspicious guy. You guys probably remember going back several years. If I saw a DMR radio, I ran over it and then backed over it again. Of course, that was closed DMR. These are open DMR systems that we're talking about. But are there other stations that are involved in this testing that would also like to key up and comment coming in from DMR? Please key up. All right. So, are there stations that are listening to the Thursday night D-STAR Roundtable on DMR, perhaps connected to the reflector, who wish to key up and or comment or ask, what the heck are you doing? We'll take you now. Please key up. Alrighty. So, AA0RX. By the way, thanks for waking me up. Go ahead.
A0RX, thanks. In all this hype and good feeling, I have to kind of give everybody a slight buzzkill from Colorado. John's audio was absolutely abominable on the first transmission. It did not sound good. It sounded like marshmallowy and just washed out and extremely, extremely poor compared to the second version. I'm not sure which one he's doing, but the first one was terrible, absolutely terrible on this end. It's audible, you can hear him, but the second one was much, much better. And I found that out here. If you have a DMR radio and you talk directly to the repeater with your DMR radio, the audio is fantastic. But when you start going through hotspots and open spots and all kinds of good stuff like that, the audio turns out to be much more like a marshmallow sound. And it's just, to me, I'm just being honest, it does not, absolutely does not sound equal to the second transmission. And I got a pretty good ear. AA0RX.
All right, fair enough. Well, the critiques like that are welcome. As you can imagine, I have large speakers, high quality stuff. In fact, one of these days, I think I'm going to, just as a side note, maybe do a live stream so you guys can see what things look like here. But in any event, I did not hear that. And listening to John and Don had a little bit of, it's even hard to describe, just a little bit of shallowness initially, and then he cleared up. John, in no time on my end, had any kind of mushy, marshmallowy, or questionable, or packet lossy sound. But let's see who's the odd man out. Did any other station listening to John on his DMR radios also hear poor quality audio? Please key up.
N6MU.
N6MUD, thanks for joining us. Go ahead.
Hey guys, good evening. Hey, I was listening on my DV repeater board, and I could not make out a single word either John or Don said. This is on my DV repeater board. Now, by the time I got my Raspberry Pi fired up to see if it was the Pi versus the repeater board thing, my DV Mega board. I didn't get a chance to listen to it, so if someone would key up again on the DMR side, I'll listen to it on my other Pi setup, and hopefully it'll sound better. But I could not make out a word when I was listening to it from my DV repeater board. I'm not sure if it's just me or my Kenwood radio or what's going on, but I'll give more feedback once I can compare it to listening to my DV Mega. Back to you, Mike.
No problem, Craig. That would be interesting if DVR PTR was causing trouble. But, think about this. You're not listening to DMR. You're listening to D-STAR. And from the D-STAR end, it would be the same as you listening to any other D-STAR radio. Now, if the DMR radio being used has bad audio quality inherently, or the hotspot or other access point being used to connect to the talk group has a problem, or the internet connection at the station's end, as would be the case for anyone, for that matter, involving packet loss, and we would still hear that. But there isn't, unlike other attempts at sending DMR to D-STAR and D-STAR and back using less sophisticated methods, where it's messed up and you can tell which side is D-STAR and which side is DMR. Here, there shouldn't be any difference. So let's do this, because your request is reasonable. I just had to throw a comment in. So K6KD, let's give it another shot on DMR. Go ahead.
Okay, very good, Mike. Well, I got a, I don't know if A0RX was listening on D-STAR or if she was listening on DMR. The only thing I could suggest is perhaps we didn't specify the DMR settings. I've been listening myself on D-STAR, and I didn't hear what to me it sounded good, and I got a little message on the side from somebody else in Colorado, and said the quality was good. So I'm just wondering if it's an issue with the station. Back to you, Mike.
W.
All right, we'll get back around. W6KD keyed up. We'll take you guys in reverse order. We'll get back to N6MED and AA0RX, but first let's go to W6KD. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have two connections right now. I have a hotspot, a regular DVAP hotspot going into XRF 555 alpha, and I have a DV dongle, blue dongle, connected via the computer into XRF 002 alpha, and I don't hear anything wrong at all with John's audio. It sounds perfect to me. So something else is going on. It's not the reflector. It's definitely being decoded by multiple devices just fine. So there's something else to explain this. It's not possible to come into my radios. It's not possible to come into two different hotspots here, perfectly clear, and and have a problem with the transcoding or the stream. There's either a internet issue or some kind of a device issue or whatever. But it's kind of perplexing a little bit. I wonder how the other two stations are hearing him now. Anyway, back to the W6KD.
Well, let's first call it. Let's do it in reverse order, as I said. So first to N6MED. So, Craig, how'd you copy now? Go ahead.
Yeah, okay, guys. On my DV Mega, the audio is perfect. I cannot tell the difference between John talking on DMR and John talking on D-STAR. So through my DV Mega Raspberry Pi, it sounds perfect. Through my DV repeater board, I cannot hear a word. I cannot understand anything. It's garbled. It's just a carrier with no audio. So I don't know what's going on there. Obviously, it's something with my setup, I guess. But it sounds like the repeater board is not doing it correctly. So it's definitely most likely something with, like I say, my setup. But I wanted to let you guys know that at least that configuration is having issues. I'm not sure how many people use that configuration, but maybe someone else out there can confirm if they're running a DV repeater board, if they're having the same issues with that I'm having, decoding any type of incoming audio from from the DMR side. Back to you, Mike.
All right, Craig. Well, that is great to hear. It's a sigh of relief, I could tell. Just so you know, during the last 50% of your transmission, you had packet loss. Not enough to not be able to understand what you were saying. I got it all, but it was getting to be choppy. You could tell that there's an internet issue at some point. And I'd be interested in learning if on your DVR PTR that you're on the first hotspot, if you listened to the roundtable on that same hotspot for a while before we started the DMR to D-STAR test. In fact, I'm going to throw that back to you for a moment, Craig, before we continue on with the other stations. So, N16UD, go ahead.
Yeah, Mike, I was listening to the whole net on that configuration, and the minute DMR came in, it couldn't decode it. So something with the DMR decoding is not working on my repeater board, their DV repeater board. So anyway, maybe someone else out there can confirm it if they're having the same issues. If not, then I'll have to look at my configuration. I'm not going to worry about it too much, but if other people have the same issue, then I'll there may be a bigger issue there of it.
All right, Greg, just confirming that you're on D-STAR using a hotspot. You're not on a DMR radio and then connecting via a hotspot to the net. Which one is it? Just so I can understand this, N16MUD, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm on a D-STAR radio, my THD 74A, killing in reflector 555 alpha. And I don't own a DMR radio there. Not yet, at least, Mike, over.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine. You don't have to. I just wasn't clear because you're not decoding DMR. All that in this transcoding, as we call it, it's not really quite correctly described as decoding. But that's all done elsewhere before it hits the internet and back here to the constellation as a D-STAR stream. So there's no DMR stream coming our way, and the constellation isn't dealing with it. It's being dealt with by the 4K transcoding reflector. AA0RX. So now that we've gone through this, have things improved, or is it still the same on your end? And I'm sorry that you're having this difficulty. AA0RX, go ahead.
AA0RX returning. I'm not having any difficulty at all. I can tell audio from other stuff. I'm an audio kind of person. So the last guy that talked on the 74 Kenwood, it sounded like he could be sitting in my house, in my room right now with me, and I'd be talking to him, and it sounded like a human being. When W6KD talked, he sounded like if he was in my home, sitting right in front of me, that forget about the audio, it sounds like a person sitting there. John sounds like a marshmallow. It sounds digital, it sounds like a marshmallow. If you go to a police department, or if you go to the fire department, they have their DMR radios, and if you listen to that, the audio is fantastic. If you're thinking about these modes to get into them, you should set the bar very, very high. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying there's dropouts or a bunch of bit error rates lost. Not saying that. I'm just saying that if you're really, really on it, John's audio on the first transmission sucked. Absolutely. And the second one was better. The radio that he used, he asked a question. His second transmission was much better on the other radio. You want an honest opinion? And you got one. AA0RX.
K6 KE0A
K6KD and KE0AYJ recognized. No, that's exactly what we wanted, Gary. Nobody gets mad at anybody for honest opinions or contradictory information here on the roundtable. In fact, anybody who tries to get mad at you over what you just said is going to get punched out. Well, I'll hire someone to do that. Anyway, this is interesting because you heard N6MUD perfectly clear, and he would have packet loss here, which, usually if a station has packet loss here, it's pretty consistent with others. But, everybody's setup is different. Who knows? Lightning could be blowing up the fiber optic and, copper cable lines and disrupting the D-STAR, and I wouldn't know it. I would hope somebody would let me know if my audio sucks. I'll just be polite about it. All right, well, let's further this a bit and see if we can take this anywhere. We may not be able to resolve it, but this is one reason why we're doing this testing. And we appreciate all the comments. K6KD, go ahead.
Okay, well, what sometimes can happen is if and this, in fact, actually, this occurred in the Yaesu system, but we had two stations that could hear each other fine, and two other stations that could hear each other fine, but the first two stations could not hear the other two stations, and logic would tell you that there may be something in the two stations that can hear each other fine are on the same side of some network element. But, what I can say to Gary is I'm listening to myself, when it comes back on D-STAR, and others do, and it's pure D-STAR what's coming on the D-STAR radios. So I guess the comments to me are inexplicable. But anyway, I'll just put it that way. Back to net, K6KD.
W6
Fair enough. And, because there have been other attempts at this, and there are other nets that try in one manner or another to bring DMR in, and you can tell, well, let's just put it this way. If you're listening to us on D-STAR, it's D-STAR to you. The station may be on a DMR radio, but your device, your hotspot, your radio is not doing any work, at least not work greater than it would do to listen to any other reflector on D-STAR. So it's not as if this DMR is causing an issue after the reflector. That is, after it comes out of the transcoding request, that's not a correct way to put it, but once it's transcoded, it's D-STAR. The guys on the DMR side, of course, are hearing it transcoded D-STAR to DMR. So you're not listening to DMR, you're listening to D-STAR. The station on the other side happens to be talking on a DMR radio. Next, KE0AYJ. Andy, thanks for joining us and getting in the fray. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mike and Annette. Yeah, always my pleasure to stick my fingers in the pie. I've noticed very little differences in any of the audio tonight. MUD did drop out here a little bit, but the capture was a little bit different. I'm on a 5 or 15 gig link here now, so I don't really have any problems with anybody anymore. I do hear the other audio, secondary audio in the background at John's location with the other radios running, and anybody just popping in, and like first-time visitors would wonder if there's something else going on that might interpret a bad audio there. And just like I mentioned to you earlier, anybody not familiar with what you got going on in the background of your location, Mike, probably think you have a Beechcraft 1900 idling in the background. So that's what it sounds like. But I hear different levels of audio and different qualities of audio. The Kenwood has the best audio quality. You know, Yaesu, I worked a lot of Yaesu and beta testing with them directly from Japan and putting input into them. And I sort of dropped out of the picture when they weren't very well accommodating to listening to what we were facing over here with it. And but the audio's always been good from everybody I've heard, and that's the characteristics of I think the microphones that they place within the units themselves. Various different fixes have been offered, and different tricks have been tried, and things like that. And some of them work, and some of them don't. But that's the way it. But overall, it's all understandable. You know, and I can tell when there's other audio in the background, like a secondary radio running, even HF static in the background on an HF rig that's just sitting around. I can hear that too, but that's the way I've got my audio set here on this end. So, we'll say, have a good evening to everybody. I'm going to sit around and listen for a while and see how many fires I lit. Back to you, Mike, K0AYJ.
N3WZU.
N6MU.
N3WZU and N6MUD recognized. Well, Andy, in fact, I do have a plane just outside my window here that is idling. I'm using it to cool the room because we have severe humidity, high heat, lots of lightning and rain, and the air conditioner blew itself right out through the window, and so this is the only thing I could do. I thankfully have an airport nearby and was able to talk someone into, taxiing their plane up my driveway. But I apologize for that noise, but there's not much I can do about it tonight. Too many things happened just the last minute. All right, W6KD is up next. Go ahead.
Okay, Mike. Yeah, I went back and listened to the Broadcastify feed for the last transmission that John made, and I'm not hearing what Gary's describing there either. It sounds fine to me there. I can't explain. I can't explain what's going on there, but the Broadcastify feed sounds, it sounds fine. In fact, anybody that's got question marks in their head might want to go back there, or even maybe even tune in there now. You can get to it via a link on the roundtable.tech website right at the top of the homepage there. You can link to the Broadcastify feed, and it runs about 30 to 45 seconds in delay from real time. So it's a great way. You can listen on the radio, and then 30 seconds later hear the same thing come by on the Broadcastify and get a good comparison there. So puzzled. Anyway, back to that W6KD.
Alrighty. N3WZU. Go ahead.
Well, you know me being a troublemaker. I'm sitting there listening. And all the transmissions I heard from DMR radios over to D-STAR sounded great coming out of Blue DV4 windows, coming out of my computer speakers. And the only thing I noticed, the one station that said that they switched to the MD390, I thought that the audio was just slightly louder or maybe a little bit hotter mic by a little bit if I was getting real picky. And then I'm like, okay, here's a real good test. If the DV4 Mini and the control panel and all that stuff is working and decoding that signal without any hitch, I think we're doing pretty good. And here we are. I'm listening to the net here on the Blue DV software and the DV4 Mini without a hitch. So I'm liking it. This is good stuff. Back to net, N3WZU.
Well, it's going to be even more exciting once we finish with the beta testing. We, of course, John K6PD, but I take credit for everything that happens here. And can give you guys the permanent. Well, there's a little bit more to it than just one talk group, but once that's handed out, if you have a DMR radio, you have a hotspot, or however you choose, I guess you could connect through a repeater. You'll be able to come in that way and then say, hey, I've heard of both sides. Sounds good. I mean, this is groundbreaking, earth-shattering stuff. This is not just, another way to lean left or right on multimode digital and starting to provide access to, for example, a constellation of reflectors to more than just D-STAR. I mean, there's a lot. Well, you guys have heard over the many months that we've talked about this, the advantages to both D-STAR users as well as DMR users. And John just described, I mean, I'm still slack-jawed over the cost of DMR radios, given the investment I've made in D-STAR. Not that I'm complaining, but, substantial savings. And there are those that believe the D-STAR radios sound better, built better, but, that's just really for those that are making the decision, what radio, if I have only one choice to get on digital, do I choose? I, like everybody else that are, D-STAR and digital nuts, I'm going to have one of everything at some point, but we can talk about that and spending my money and your money later. Next, let's go back to Craig in 6MUD. Go ahead.
Hey, Mike, thanks a lot. Hey, I want to confirm that John's last transmission was on DMR, because if he was on DMR, I could all of a sudden hear him on my DV repeater board. So, John, can you confirm if you were on DMR on your last transmission there? And if so, then all of a sudden it started working. I don't know what happened there, Mike, over.
I'm pretty sure K6KD was transmitting on DMR, but let's make sure. K6KD, were you?
Well, this one and the very last one, I picked up the D-STAR radio. I was kind of going back and forth just to kind of test it. And Andy's comment is very good. I have a habit of I try to have the other radios with the audio down, and so theoretically it shouldn't be heard, but I guess it is, and it might be a little bit distracting. I had a habit of doing it, from the D-STAR dropout days or timeout just to make sure. But if you like, I'll go back to DMR next time and just to double check it. Back to you, Mike.
All right, so N6MUD, stand by, and we're going to let... Yeah, if you guys are listening to yourselves, I can tell you that the echo is going to be pretty evident for those that listen like myself and Gary that listen very closely. So you might want to turn them down once you, as I do when I test things. I listen, and once I confirm that I'm there, if that's a worry, then turn that other radio down so there's no confusing, there's no duplicate audio being passed. Sometimes it's difficult to determine just how sensitive the radio's internal or external mics are unless you've done some testing. And with DMR radios, many of them through the CPS can be made highly sensitive, and others can be made nearly deaf if they were to be used in a noisy environment, like a coal mining operation or a noisy dump truck. So, John, back to you. And we assume you're going to be key. In fact, key up on DMR, please. K6KD, go ahead.
Okay, well, I'm on DMR, and I have the other radios down, and I feel kind of at a loss. I guess I see the signals, but I can't hear it. But yeah, that was a good point. Well, is also being tested quite a bit in Europe, and I don't using a number of different types of configurations, and I don't hear any of any issues. So anyway, basically, once it's deployed, we'll be emphasizing providing a lot more information on the multi-mode gateways, because a lot of people with DMR want to be on Brandmeister as well and just be able to switch talk groups. You know, right now it's a completely different system, but with the new gateways, it'll be possible. And I know there's a bunch of guys in northern Colorado that are going to be anxious to be coming over here. So the more the merrier. Okay, back to net from K6KD.
KE0.
KE0AYJ recognized. I mean, part of the reason we're doing this, it's kind of unstated, is to hear opinion. It's not just a matter of trumpeting our horns and saying, oh, here you go. This is important to everyone. Because if for some reason during actual testing, well, guess what we're doing right now is actual testing. If there's going to be a problem, then, you know, my position is going to be, sorry, it's not ready for prime time, and let's take it off the constellation. But the fact that someone hears the audio differently than the rest of us simply means that the audio is heard at his station differently than the rest of us. There's no more to it than that. It doesn't mean that the system is bad. Then again, you know, if we get a stampede of stations that are throwing cabbages at this, then there's another issue. But I can't repeat often enough, and I shouldn't because we're not dummies, but you're listening to D-STAR. It doesn't matter what the other station's radio is. It matters because it's cool that you can connect to the constellation, and transcoding is occurring between DMR and D-STAR. But ultimately, if you're listening on D-STAR, you're listening on D-STAR. There's no DMR anything that's coming your way. And same thing for the guys that are listening on DMR. And there are stations listening on DMR, and they're listening to DMR natively, and the transcoding is going from D-STAR to DMR, and they're not listening to D-STAR. You don't have to do anything at their end. Your equipment's not doing anything. So I think I'm convincing myself of this, so just never mind. K0AYJ, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. KE0AYJ. Yeah, that time around, I was listening on the 8600 and listening to the Pi coming in. And when he was on that DMR radio, John, I'm talking about you, your treble was a little high, meaning that was the hot part of the microphone, I guess, that's in its response. The bass is somewhat diminished, and I think that might be part of the problem. I'm not sure if it really is a problem. It just might be a characteristic of your voice, because I've never talked to you in person. So I just don't know the characteristics for you yourself. I do notice a difference on the different radios you use, but that DMR radio that you used this last go around, the treble is a little, let's say, hot, if you want. It's a little more pronounced, and that's what I've noticed on the 8600 here. KE0AYJ, back to that.
Andy, actually, I agree with you. John's first two go-arounds on DMR had very good audio. But this last time, and John can tell us the radio he was using, it sounded like the bass was shelved, like you're using, some sort of audio processing and then either mechanically or electronically shelving the bass. But it was only this last go-around. So let me see where we're at. We're out of stations. if you haven't keyed up to comment on this, or if you have any basic questions, we can't simply, spend the rest of the net describing top to bottom, nor can we hand out the talk route. The unit would blow up if we had all the activity on there, but that will soon happen. So stations, please key up.
KF A0R.
I have KF0LF, a station that normally never keys down during the net, but only afterwards. So, and then we have AA0RX. Denny, long time no talk during the course of the net. Thanks for keying up. KF0LF, go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, Mike. Yeah, it's been a long time. Talked to Bob, WCKD, earlier today, but I haven't talked to you in a while. Yeah. I'm on a DV Mega, a Pi A and a DV Mega, and my 51A radio, and I was copying both DMR radios originally fine. A little bit different audio quality, probably just the microphones, but I copied them fine, both of them, and when he came back a little clearer one time, I looked over there and it said ID 31. So the D-STAR radio was definitely a lot clearer, or not a lot, but somewhat clearer audio, back to John's normal sound. And the DMR radios were just a little bit different on the audio, but I copied both of them fine. Just wanted to throw that in. Now back to you, Mike. By the way, I'm in Colorado too.
Where are you supposed to be?
Oh, sometimes I'm in Arizona.
Oh, that's right. Thanks for reminding me. Yeah, and you make an important point. DMR radios do sound different for those of us that listen nearly exclusively on D-STAR, which would be me. The DMR radios do have a different sound. Some might describe it as being better. Some may describe it as just being different. But as was commented, I mean, those that are looking at the screens, you're seeing the call sign come through. And I presume that on the DMR radios, they're also seeing the call sign of the transmitting stations on D-STAR. It's supposed to be working that way. I haven't heard of anybody saying I don't see anything. Now, there's no message text that's available yet, although that down the line may be a feature in the future. But the call signs are all showing up appropriately, and it's all very cool. AA0RX, go ahead.
AA0RX returning. Yeah, KF0LF. Never met him in a place, but I would say that if he were sitting here in the room with me and I was not on radio, his voice would sound very similar to what I heard just now. That is what I'm getting at. It's nothing to do with audio or if I can't understand John, or anything of the kind. I have a DMR radio, several, from the top $700 radios to the bottom. And what I'm saying is, if you go to a sheriff's office and or a fire department and you listen to the DMR radio, they don't sound as bad as they do here. It's extremely good audio on DMR. I'm not saying bad things about DMR. I'm saying that in this light and in this theater, the DMR does not sound good. It sounds like you're chewing on marshmallows. Stick a whole bunch of marshmallows in your mouth and then start to transmit. We'll hear you, but that's what you sound like. And that's all I'm trying to say. That it needs to have some great testing like we're doing now and some people discoursing and maybe some adjustments. That's all. AA0RX.
Yeah, no, Gary, I understood that. I don't think anybody's throwing tomatoes at you, and nobody. I mean, you're going to hear perhaps some argument and some discussion as to why that would be. I haven't had anyone else comment with audio being heard at the station, same as you. That doesn't mean that that's not the case. And it could be that there continues to be work done. Of course, this is still in beta testing, and as John stated earlier, we're waiting on some software adjustments. You know, there's some bugs that he's trying to swat out of it, and perhaps some improvements. Your comments are well taken, at least by me. And if nobody else takes them well, please refer them to me, so I can refer them to someone else. K6, KD, go ahead.
Well, for Andy, I'm still on the TR-7400, and you know, it's interesting that I sounded differently later with the TR-7400 versus how I sounded earlier. You know, being the same radio. You know, maybe I was holding it a little further. Maybe the radio in the background had an effect. But I think a lot of the times it's the radio itself versus the the mode. And you know, the transcoding is being done properly. So I guess I will go by. I've spoken with at least dozens of people in Europe who are testing this, and the comments are all good. And these are from people who are very experienced with DMR radio. So I'm not going to make any comments about there's always the 5%, which is fine. I mean, you're never going to, just like Congress, you're never going to get 100% consensus. But the overwhelming response is good. What we're just waiting for are some loose ends to that are associated with the deployment. But I'm very pleased, and I wanted to give people who were wanting to hear it and listen impartially, I wanted them to get the experience it. Back to that, K6PD.
WB5.
All right, John, thank you. WB5EKU, go ahead.
Yeah, WB5EKU. On my Connect System 750. I was listening not only through the repeater, his PW repeater, but also through two hotspots here. And audio quality really, and trust me, I'm not throwing any sticks or flames or anything at anyone. The audio quality, it sounds the same. Yes, there's a difference between microphones in rigs. There's a difference between loudspeakers in radios also. But quality-wise, it's like John and I have been doing the past few days testing. Quality has been great. This is about a year advanced is what I thought it was going to be. I thought transcoding was going to be at least another year off. And I'm just tickled pink that it's happening now. And it sounds so much better than I've heard attempts on other systems. So, okay. My 2 cents for it. N6HKH, WB5EKU.
N3WZU.
All right, John, thanks. Yeah, it did come a bit quicker than was anticipated, and we've adopted it. And the version that we'll be running is we've termed as 4K transcoding for a very good reason. Well, there's several reasons for that. N3WZU, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I have a Connect Systems CS700. Hardly ever use it anymore. I bought it when somebody installed a DMR repeater, 14 miles down the road. And of course, I've used it on the DV4 Mini a couple times. I guess at this point, if I don't know where to connect, and I would be connecting with the DV4 Mini, where would I go? Or if they don't want to tell me tonight, that's fine too. I would be interested to see how it would sound coming through the system through using the CS700 and the DV4 Mini. Back to you, Mike, N3WZ.
Well, N3WZU, Wes, I wish we could do that, and unfortunately, that can't be done tonight, and there's lots of good reasons for it. The testing is limited. The equipment in present use is not our equipment that we own. As John explained, the equipment that is going to be part of the roundtable is identical, but it is not. There's restrictions on what we can do and what we can't do, and our system is going to take a much larger load, more streams, more modules for transcoding than presently available. So if I said that incorrectly, John, you can certainly correct me. But the next step, I presume, but I don't want to be speaking too far out of term, is to provide the talk group to stations who want to participate in another round of testing before it becomes publicly made available. That is here's the roundtable. You connect on this X reflector, this XLX reflector, this DMR talk group, and then as time goes on, other open source digital modes, open digital systems actually is the way I should describe it. And when I say down the road, I mean, it could be significantly down the road, will be added, and your ability to connect will be the same as others. So, for right now, this is it. I wish we could do that, and it was discussed. We just can't. But the next step, I believe, in the process, and I'm going to check with John, because I don't want to get ahead of myself, and I certainly don't want to get ahead of my skis, as the politicians like to describe things. But I think that's the idea. And now, in fact, let me just check with John first, and then I wanted to give you some information about how to keep on top of this and what we're doing. So first, over to K6KD. Did I screw that up, and is that consistent with, at this time of night, especially not feeling so well, my brain may be soft. So help me out there, John. K6KD, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's the gist of it. When when we implement it, locally, it'll be on high-speed fiber optic, and the reflectors involved will be in the same data center with not without any discernible latency between the two. And the procedures for connecting the servers, the IP addresses, everything will be completely different. So hopefully it won't be too long. Anyway, back to you, Mike.
Well, not that it matters. Maybe there's some benefit in latency and circuitry, although, anymore it's hard to tell the path that the stream passes through the internet. But as was mentioned, at present, we're utilizing the 4K transcoding reflector in Europe, and that's how we're allowed to do this. So, given that, as we fire our gear up, it's going to be local in the sense of United States. Now, I guess, that may or may not make a big difference, but it does make me feel better knowing that the equipment is here, or at least, that's not an appropriate or fair way to say it. The data center hosting the reflectors will also host the transcoding reflector So location-wise, it'll be the same. And the circuitry is fiber optic, which may not be the case. I'm not sure how it is. We're being passed over to Europe, but ordinarily it's not a concern, but apparently it could be, especially tonight. Now, I wanted to make mention that if you want to stay on top of what we're doing, an email went out telling everybody that we're going to be doing this for those that were of interest. It would be a great idea if you would subscribe to the Thursday Night D-STAR Roundtable. If you go to the forum board, you guys know where that is. I mean, by now everybody should be. There's a lot of... In fact, actually, the post just disappeared. You know, something's not right. Oh, there they are. They all... Jeez, I think this server must have been updating on the forum board. Anyway, on the landing page at roundtable.tech, T-E-C-H, you're going to see big letters. Click here to receive the Roundtable newsletter and flyer. So if you want to get a flyer ahead of time, which as we do this testing, we're going to put the talk group in the flyer. You may want to subscribe if you're interested in doing that. And you have to subscribe yourself. You just can't call out to me because of spam provisions. But that's that. We're also preparing, and we're getting some great articles that's being written by a number of informative and entertaining stations describing what this is more specifically, how it works, what to anticipate, and some overall discussion for those that want to use the 4K transcoding modules. And that discussion will be in an upcoming newsletter, which, oddly enough, would be the same subscription process that you follow. Just a minute. To receive the flyer. So it's all the same. Our plan is a newsletter about once a month, but we may do the newsletter a little bit more often as we get more to discuss concerning the 4K transcoding servers. And certainly the flyers, we try to get out once a week to let you know about the roundtable topics, but we're also going to be handing out talk groups and other things like that, even during one of the latter beta test sessions. But that talk group might change, and so you may want to do that also for those of you that are into social media in a good way. We have a Twitter account, and you'll see a follow on the Roundtable forum board as I continue with this selfish advertising. But we also tweet with what's going on and changes, and we actually are going to be tweeting more often. Plus, we're developing a capability using Twitter, where you can let everybody else know that you have a discussion, net or otherwise, going on. Of course, the more people that follow the Roundtable net, as it's called, D-STAR Roundtable, on Twitter, the more people that would know what's going on, because as we start putting more of the modules available across our constellation of reflectors, that is resulting in more activity, you may find that there's a lot of different things going on at the same time. And if you want to know about what's going on a particular module, not just Twitter would be the way to do that. And that is to subscribe or follow the Roundtable on Twitter. And we're going to allow people to, through the Roundtable forum board, tell everyone else that's following the Twitter account that they're going to be starting a net or talking about something, or there's somebody really important on a particular module or whatever, and it would alert the Roundtable listeners to what's... Anyway, we'll get into that later on. It's not up and running yet, but we're getting there. So enough of that. All right, I'm out of stations. We're on 4K transcoding, I think. No, we are. And before we move on, stations with comments, questions, concerns, please give. Alrighty, nothing seen or heard. Let me just check one more time. I know there's a couple of stations out there that were also part of the testing, and I don't want to call out call signs, but if you're part of today's or this past week's beta testing and you do want to key up, we'll take you now. Please key up. Alrighty, that'll do it. So looking forward to it, and I appreciate you guys. For those that have absolutely no interest in transcoding and listening to this, I'm sure that everybody does. Whether you decide that it's for you is a decision that you'll have to make. So let's do this. We're going to open it up for topics, questions, concerns that you may have of any nature, whether it is something we've talked about thus far tonight, perhaps even last Thursday, but it could also be something entirely brand new and different. Please key up now. So, nobody has any questions. I hear often enough about stations that have questions from other nets and other reflectors, and they're often told to come here to get answers. I'm glad to hear that, but you have to key up and ask the question to get the answer. Of course, I suspect that a lot of that is, they just cut to the chase and key up during non-net times and say, hey, does anybody know about this? And then the question's asked and it's answered, and we don't benefit by that unless you're listening to Constellation at all times. But also, topic-wise, I have to admit that, being ill and having Bob behind the roundtable golden mic sometimes causes people to not send topics. You can open things back up if you want to send me topics, but I didn't get that, and so you guys may be sitting on topics. As such, I'm calling for those stations sitting on topics and questions to join us now. So please key up. Well, nothing from that. So, just a minute. Well, I think the airplane propeller running in the background probably drowned out that noise that I thought should not be going out on the air. So, Buster 1.2 is out, and I haven't found any station running Buster 1.2. I've seen in the the I.O. groups that there were some questions and issues even with Buster 1.2, but the number of complaints dropped dramatically from version 1 and even from 1.1. So, is there a station running Buster 1.2 that would like to comment on it? And perhaps, even more importantly, is the interest in Buster dwindling? And I'm not sure why that would be. It's just a Mac program that it's an app actually from the Apple App Store to let you operate on D-STAR natively in iOS. It's an app that you just click on your Mac and can connect to reflectors. It's updated fairly regularly, I understand. So, anybody have any comments, or is it just a few stations that think it's cool and the rest have abandoned it? I don't know. Buster users, commentators, please key up. Nothing seen or heard. So did anybody get one of those Micronode International Nano DVs? We'd like to hear what you think of it. Please key up. Alrighty. Nothing there. So, has anybody seen what would be described as G3 Link? I don't know that it's called that, but has that floated out? It was being worked on, and we've had some inquiries about it, but I haven't seen anything. So, does anyone know anything or heard anything or any news about G3 Link or whatever it's going to be called? I had some news that maybe it wouldn't be called that, but still. Is that out there yet? And if you know, please key up. Well, nothing there. All right, I give up. Maybe we wore everybody out with the transcoding, or they all nodded off. It's hard to say. I am going to see if there's anything else for tonight's roundtable. Otherwise, I will probably bring it to a close, in part because there's nothing else that I think that's going on. Secondly, I appreciate everybody's understanding that I'm not quite 100% yet. But I can certainly, stay up for a while, but I'm not going to tread water just to burn airtime on a net if there's nothing to talk about. So, and certainly there's a lot of things to talk about. It's just that don't come to mind tonight, or they don't want to talk about it tonight. So, what do you have for the roundtable, if anything? This would be a good time to key up. If not, we may bring the roundtable to a close, which is neither good nor bad. So stations, please key up.
T.
Hey, I've got a question about the roundtable board. I'm going to take me a few minutes. I just signed up, so it might take me a few minutes to figure this thing out. So get Andy first, and then come back and get me. And 3WZU.
All right, KE0AYJ and N3WZU are recognized. First to KE0AYJ. Go ahead.
Okay, brand new line of discussion. Glad we're off that transcoding stuff. Maybe we can move on to something else and let it sit on the back burner for a while. Interesting phenomenon I have going on here. It might be just the proximity of my Pi device to one in the mobile, and the other radios are on VHF and UHF. I got maximum signal pegging the meters whenever the Pi is plugged in, and I'm using a VHF or UHF frequency on the DV Mega. And I had the heck of a time trying to figure out what was going on until I figured out it was a Pi, and I want to know, has anybody else experienced that in possible cure other than physical separation? Right now, the radio is separated by about a meter from the DV Mega, and I'm fixing to make it about 1.5 meters because, my vehicle is not all that big. It's a great big pickup truck, but can't do too much to it. I want to know if anybody else has had that, and I looked at it on the spectrum analyzer for the DV Mega, and I've got spurs popping up everywhere in that thing. I wonder if that was a natural thing with those, or if I should just go ahead and bite the bullet and get another DV Mega and see if it's any cleaner. First thing I'm going to do is switch frequencies in the Mega, try a different UHF, and then even drop it down into VHF. I got the dual band, and play around with that a little bit and see if that's
VE7KH.
Alrighty, recognizing VE7KH. We got you, and we'll put you in order. We're doubling a bit with the stations and myself, but that happens. All right, so who can help Andy out with his DB Mega stations, please, Kia?
W6KD.
W6KD, go ahead.
I'm not sure I understood the problem exactly. It sounds like he's getting a noise spike, or I'm not exactly sure what the problem is. I think my understanding is that there's a birdie or something coming off the computer that's getting into the radio, but I'm not sure that I understood that right.
Okay, KE0AYJ, try it again, and let's clean this up. So, go ahead.
Okay, Bob, what I've got is, I got UHF all the time.
KE.
Here, every time the DV Mega is on, in standby mode, waiting for a signal to either show up one way or the other. It's constantly there. And I was wondering if it was possibly even the little power supply that I have plugged into, 5-volt converter power supply that is very clean. And I tried it by switching it to straight battery, 5-volt power pack, and it's still there. And it's looking at the spectrum analyzer, I have the Rigol, and looking at it there, I see some birdies all over the place, both on VHF and UHF. Now, I don't know if I can ascertain. I probably could just by unplugging and turning it off, unplugging the Mega, and then bringing the board back up. I don't know if it'll come up all the way and see if there's birdies coming off the board itself or the Pi. I guess that would be a test I could do that's viable also. But yeah, it completely wipes out VHF and UHF for me, no matter where I scan with the VFO or go anywhere. It does diminish at the low ends of the bands on both the VHF and the UHF. So, any ideas on that? It'd be nice if there were a frequency calibration routine for the Mega, but I can't find one, and don't know if there is even such a thing out there. But like I said, my last opportunity will be to get another DV Mega, plug in, and compare it. And that's it. Back to net. KE0AYJ.
Thank you. With that, to W6KD.
Yeah, I can't say that. Well, first of all, I've never put mine on a spectrum analyzer. I don't have that sort of test equipment here, but I have observed, some spurious stuff. We know that the low power hotspots, DVAPs, DV Megas, and the likes, do not have the same kinds of transient suppression and filtering that a regular rig, even just a regular HT, would have. And so it's not a surprise that you might see some of that. I've had a hotspot that was on a pretty broad, pretty widely spaced frequency, and almost megahertz off. Open up the squelch on a nearby on another nearby hotspot, or on a radio on a different frequency that's tuned to a different hotspot. So they're quite a bit sloppier than your average radio, because they're 10 milliwatt devices, and they can be, if they were to put the same kind of electronics in there for the same kind of rejection and selectivity and the like, so that it would be a much more expensive device anyway. But I've not seen that. I've not seen a spike coming off that would cause that kind of problem. I mean, if it's one thing you might try is take the antenna, and try to do some intentional attenuation. And one way to do that is to turn the antenna to the opposite polarization. So if your radio's on vertical, take the antenna and put it, orient it horizontally, which will give you about as much as 20 dB attenuation because of the difference in polarization. And so if it's just barely getting in, that might do the job. But if you're getting a full S9 spur, that's probably not going to help at all. In fact, it's very unlikely to help. I don't know. There might be a problem with the device. I've never seen that behavior. I've got 3 dB megas. I've got a dual band and 2 single bands. I've never seen it, so it might just be a problem with the device.
No trouble with mine, Andy.
All right, just a second. I gotta get K0OJ, recognized. So, well, let's find out. Does anybody else have any other possibilities? Well, actually, that's what K0OJ says. So I'm gonna. This is so stupid. K0OJ. Go ahead.
Oh, finally made it. Hi, Gary. You're probably having a heart attack now. Mine shuts off all the way. I wonder if maybe I ought to grab Bill's 815 and bring it upstairs and look at mine. I don't know, but I don't have any trouble with mine. The only trouble I got is I never get anybody's call on my 880H, but the D74 gets them all the way. So if it don't totally shut off, then I don't know. Have fun, old Hawaiian shirtist, K0OJ.
All right. Anyone else have any help for KE0AYJ with his DB Mega? We'll take you now. Please key up. Alrighty, well, KE0AYJ, hand it back to you before we call on the other stations for any further comments. Don't know if this was terribly helpful. Nobody said, okay, aha, here it is. But you did get some help. Go ahead.
A.
Okay, well, we'll give it a couple of things a try. First thing we do is change frequencies on it and do a comparison on Birdie there with the Rigol. And then see what's going on with that and see if they any diminish. I'll give Bob's suggestion a try too with polarization. Being that close to the radio, less than a meter away, I do not think it's going to make that much of a difference because it is S9 plus. So we'll look at that. And when you got a signal coming in that's negative 120 dBm, it's pretty hard to get it isolated. But anyway, we'll do what we can, look at it, and like I said, I will take the DV Mega off and see if it's coming from the Pi itself, and just process elimination. And then the last opportunity I'll have is get in the plastic enclosure with the foil duct tape inside and completely seal it up and everything, and see if that does anything for it. But we'll try a bunch of different things, and if I get a cure, I'll put it in the shout box, and you guys can play with it later. Appreciate all the input from everybody. Hello, OJ. Good to hear you again. We'll talk at y'all later and be listening on the net. KE0AYJ back to net.
AA0RX recognized. Well, if all else fails, you can also try a foil hat. I've heard that might work. Next up is N3WZU. Go ahead.
Well, me being way behind the power curve, because I probably should have signed up, for the D-STAR Roundtable forum. I'm getting questions answered left and right, because I'm interested in either the DV Mega setup or the open spot, which I may start. Well, the question is, what I need to learn is the pros and cons of both the open spot or the DV Mega, which may start the argument of my Ford's better than your Chevy. But I don't know enough about these devices, so I'm learning kind of hand over fist, and I just went through and found somebody posted, K6JM posted the multi-mode DV Mega Access Point, which had a pretty good write-up and stuff. So I don't even know if I have a real question other than for someone that, like me, that's rather have something like a DV4 Mini that I throw in a USB port, tell it to recognize it, tell the software what COM port it's on, and let the software control it. Well, Mike, what do you think? Maybe someone else. What would be better for someone like myself? The open spot that's supposedly easy to use, or go with the DV Mega and go that route? Back in that N3WZU.
K6J.
K6JM recognized. Well, to answer that question, you'd have to go to the Roundtable Forum board and fill out that psychological testing evaluation so that we can get a better idea as to what would be good for you versus what would be good for others. Anyway, I appreciate you making mention of all the stuff that we have posted on the Roundtable Forum board. There's a lot of great information. Some of it's, even some of the older posts have been updated with recent information, and it continues to grow, and it's an excellent resource, especially if you just want to get a handle on some of the basic concepts. So it looks like K6JM wishes to weigh in to answer your question, so I'll take him next, and then we'll continue on with the other two stations that have keyed up with the issues. So K6JM, hey, thanks for joining us. Go ahead.
Okay, this is K6JM. Yeah, Mike. Sorry I'm joining so late. I'm in Iowa for a class reunion, staying in a hotel designed by Frank Lloyd Wright. Last one in operation. In a room with furniture designed by the same guy. Anyway, off topic. The key is what do you really want to do, and that'll probably guide you to the decision. One way to think about this is that the open spot has its own computer in there that will start up from scratch, from go to 0 to 60 when you turn it on. So if you don't, whereas many of these other solutions involve a Raspberry Pi, where you want to be a little careful the way you shut it down, and you can be lucky and pull power and have it start up again, but you'll probably get caught someday where there'll be a problem. You'll have to put in another SD card. So the open spot has that advantage right off the bat, and then besides that, it's easier to use. And I don't have one, so I won't say much more. I'm sure others who do have one will explain. The DV Mega, there's so many things you can do with it. I am talking on the one that little introductory article, overview article I wrote. So I'm using the little DV Mega Pi board stuck not into a Pi, but to a BlueStack board. And it is talking to my Android phone running BlueDV. And the problem with that, I love it. I loved it when I wrote the article. I'm using it now and love it, but it doesn't have RF control. It means you can't unlink and link to something else by using just your radio and sending commands from your radio. I gotta walk over to my Android device and use the graphical interface to do that. And that's the deal. If you're driving down the road, you probably won't want to use what I'm using right now. You probably want to use a open spot or other device that allows you to use RF control. Now, the DV Mega plugged into a Pi running G4 KLX will let you do RF control of linking. So you can get it with the DV Mega, but those are kind of like the big issues I think about. I'm going to kick it back to Mike and get some other comments. This is K6JM.
All right, Jim, appreciate it. Anybody else wish to weigh in on the open spot versus DV Mega fight? I'm going to push the DV4 Mini aside and not, because first of all, I don't think it's a worthy contender. Number two, I think there's probably more of them in dumpsters than any other access point. And for the third reason, it just seems so odd that more dropouts occur from that device than any other. But don't blame me for that. This is just what I've been told. So stations who wish to throw their cents in behind, is it open spot or is it DV Mega? Please key up.
AA0R.
AA0RX, go ahead.
AA0RX returning. Yeah, if you really like to tinker and learn new stuff and don't mind the learning curve, the DV Mega and Raspberry Pi configuration is a far better way to go. But you will learn, and you will have a lot to learn, and you will have a great reward from that. If you just want to plug and play and have absolutely no brains in the equation, then the open spot is for you. So you kind of have to decide what you'd like to do. If you like plug and play, or if you like to tinker and then learn a lot more, but then you'll be more versed in digital voice modes. That's the two kind of choices in a real quick nutshell. AA0RX.
Thank you. All right. Anyone, have you bought an open spot and then showed the DV Mega in the drawer? Or did you get a dual DV Mega? Or maybe you've added the blue DV shield to it and have found it to be now even greater than the open spot. The open spot, while it is plug and play, there are certain advantages to it over the DV Mega. But we'll take your opinions, not mine. Please key up. K6KD, go ahead.
Okay, well, I have a few of both, and I think they both have their place. If you're traveling, you can't beat the ability just to turn the power on and off with the open spot and not worry about corrupting a card or worry about shutting down. You need an adapter, your RJ45 to Wi-Fi adapter, to get internet because it doesn't have any built-in Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. But outside of that, I think it's a very good device, and it's also very versatile with the in handling multi DMR systems because it can store up to 5 independent profiles, and by radio command you can switch from one profile to the other. I'm also a big fan of the other, and digging in and with the DV Mega, but I wouldn't sell the. I think the open spot is an excellent excellent solution. Back to next.
W6KDM.
All right, John, appreciate that. Although I think there's something to be said about the KB5 RAB image, especially given its. In fact, you guys talked about this last Thursday, and it was briefly discussed earlier this net about some of the extra capabilities it can do, in primarily, especially adding DMR gateway. You can access any of the DMR protocols. Oh, you know, doggone it, W6KD keyed up and... No, yeah, and I bet he's going to say just that. I'm sorry, Bob. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm with John that they both have their place. Both have strengths and both have weaknesses. And like John, I have multiples of both devices and don't plan on getting rid of either. For D-STAR use, I still prefer the DV Mega, to be quite honest. The availability of DTMF or touch tone control of the hotspot and linking in particular is extremely important to me. It's very, very handy, especially in mobile operations, to be able to QSY from one reflector to another just by using DTMF tones. And to I don't believe that you can make the OpenSpot do that just yet. And also the ability to unlink from a reflector, which the OpenSpot won't do. You know, it's not a huge deal, but it is a deal. And you know, so the DV Mega is very handy for that. It does have to be shut down in an orderly way, lest you scramble the SD card. So for mobile operations, being able to just power up and power down an OpenSpot with abandon without having to worry about any kind of a shutdown sequence is certainly nice. And if you want to tie the device to the power system in your vehicle and not worry about scrambling stuff. The DV Mega, of course, you can plug a $10 Wi-Fi dongle into it. Something like a EddieMax or a Wi-Fi or whatever, and be connected via Wi-Fi. Whereas the connectivity for wireless with an OpenSpot's more troublesome because you have to use a Wi-Fi to Ethernet bridge because the OpenSpots don't have a way to directly connect, to directly integrate Wi-Fi. You can't just plug a device into it. You gotta, so you're gonna add some wiring and complexity for operating portable in particular, portable and mobile, because you have to have, another wire going to a bridge device to your Wi-Fi connection. So they both have their strengths, they both have their weaknesses. I use by the way, the OpenSpot is the only one of the devices that will do DMR to Fusion translation. So if that's of interest or important to you, it's the only device out there right now. Let me reset. Anyway, so yeah, that's the only device that will do that. So, for example, if you want to use DMR with a YSF reflector, the OpenSpot's the only one that'll do that. So, the OpenSpot is a nice, compact, plug-and-play package that requires has a web interface and a minimal amount of configuration. Although it does have some configuration idiosyncrasies, but they both have their place. And I guess my bottom line is for D-STAR, I still like the DV Mega. For the other modes, I prefer the OpenSpot. And that's my 2 cents, W6KD.
Thank you for your 2 cents. Anyone else on the OpenSpot versus DV Mega contest? Thank you now, and then we'll get to the other stations. They keyed up hours ago, probably to them it seems. Stations, please key up.
K6K.
K6KD, go ahead.
I made a post in the current discussions exactly on that topic, comparing the DV Mega solutions with the OpenSpot. So current discussions, I think it's probably just the second one down. Back to that.
Indeed, let me find it. It's comparing. This is the title of the document. Comparing MMDVM/DMR gateway with OpenSpot in the current discussions folder and There are other posts there concerning use of the open spot, and in the general discussions folder, it was current discussions folder, the articles or the posts just mentioned, but also in the general discussions folder, there's a fair amount about open spot generally, and about the DV Mega, dual DV Mega using the KB5 RAV, or otherwise putting it to MMDVM, multi-mode use. So I appreciate it. All right, let's jump to VE7KH. You keyed up, Al, and we appreciate you being with us. Sorry about the wait. Go ahead.
A.
This is E7LEE. I was speaking to him on the telephone, and he's trying to get his thumb DV device to work there, so I think it was an accidental key up there, Mike. VE7LEE.
All right, Ted, thanks for that. Yeah, it seemed like that because he actually came through as a double, as if he wasn't listening, which he's not known for that. So we'll take him off the list if he did want to bring something up. He'll have to key back up. All right, next up is AA0RX. Thanks for being patient, or impatient, if that was the case. Go ahead.
AA0RX returning. Impatient or impatient, yeah, that's the ticket right there. Anyway, no, I got a good friend here, SK0OJ, and he has the Kenwood 74, and we were working several weeks back with that radio, and he really, really likes the audio out of that radio. I do too as well, once we tweak it out, but I was wondering if John, K6KD, would be so kind to demonstrate his audio difference to OJ and see if OJ's ears could maybe pick up a difference at all there. If you really want to know, don't ask me. Ask OJ. He's got a real good ear for differences in audio and a lot of knowledge about that. AA0RX.
All right, but I mean, what other radio did you want K6KD to key up on, or what radio do you think he was using earlier? But probably you would want him to key up two radios to do an A/B comparison, or do I have this all wrong? Is it just start talking on his Kenwood and let any other radio go without being used? AA0RX, go ahead.
Oh, okay, A0RX. I maybe misunderstood John. I thought he was comparing and wanted good audio feedback from other hams that were listening to different radios. I thought that's what he was asking for, and maybe I just did not understand the question. AA0RX, back to that.
Well, maybe I nodded off. I'm assuming that you're referring to K6KD. So K6KD, anything to this? What did I miss? Go ahead.
I'm not sure. I brought the DMR link down, or in the process of bringing it down, so I'll just be on D-STAR. I have a Kenwood TH. I don't think this is the question, but I do also have a Kenwood THD 74 A radio, and I find that it's just FYI, we all have different opinions. I find that audio a little better than the ICOM audio, but I find my DMR radio, particularly the Terra, has a better audio than the Kenwood THD74A, hands down. Kenwood is not bad, but the DMR radios I've got are better. But that wasn't really the question. But anyway, back to that, Keith.
Oh, okay. And I should have let everybody know that the link to the transcoding server, we intended to drop it after we ended the testing, the one-sided testing tonight. So when we do this again, especially if we have some capability of letting stations both listen as well as perhaps participate through the DMR talk group, I'm not saying that's going to happen for certain, but we'll have John do just that. And that would be kind of interesting, although he did go back and forth between DMR and D-STAR earlier on. So how about we postpone that until the next time we do this? AA0RX, go ahead.
Yeah, roger that. That sounds plausible. It sounds like a good ham radiomanship, if you will. If you really want to know, you got to ask the people that really can tell you the difference between the audio. And OJ is one of the kings in the area of that. He's not biased one way or another towards selling you on one different type of mode. AA0RX.
Fair enough. We need nonpartisan, middle of the road, unbiased, and those that are willing to accept anybody's opinion of radio. Well, he listens for himself. We'll do that. All right. I think I'm out of stations. If I did not respond to your key up, it's probably because I didn't see it, or maybe I didn't want to see it, but I doubt that was the case. So, did anyone key up and not get recognized and wish to be part of the roundtable? We'll take you now. Please key up.
K6.
K6JM, go ahead.
Kind of just adding on to the previous topics. We had one question about OpenSpot versus DV Mega, and of course the DV Mega has so many configurations. You could probably have, 2A, 2B, and 2C at least. But in the same category would be the MMDVM Zoom Spot. And then you may have talked about it before I was able to join, but that's got an RF chip on an MMDVM board, and I know Don WB5 EKU has been playing with a Zoom Spot on a Pi Zero wireless, which is a really small package. So you still have to worry about boot up. But on the SD card issue that Bob brought up, but it is another approach in the running, and it runs the G4KLX and MDVM software. A vacuum like K6GM.
Well, thanks for that, Jim. Actually, we did talk about the Zoom Spot. We unfortunately described it as the Zoom board, which was not correct. It's a Zoom Spot, I think 2 weeks ago. I don't think we had any stations using it, but I don't remember at this point. But thanks for bringing that to our attention. All right, anything further for the Thursday night D-STAR Roundtable? I have to admit that in my weakened condition, I end up getting very tired very quickly, as anybody would imagine would be the case when you don't feel good. And in fact, I see the doctor tomorrow morning, and I hate being ill. I don't like extending it. I don't like pills, and quite frankly, I'm tired of, well, I don't like getting sick. I mean, of course, that applies, I guess, to a lot of people, unless you are of the ilk to want to feign illness at all opportunities, or you call in sick a lot for work, but then to each his own. So, unless there's something that we need to bring up now, which I'm willing to entertain, but I want to have a little bit more than just a topical discussion of, things that can be carried on to next Thursday. Short of that, we'll probably bring the roundtable to an end, but not until I find out if that is true. So stations, please key up.
AA0R.
AA0RX, go ahead.
AA0RX returning. We respect your tenacity, and I could not even imagine how you can pull off what you do, being slightly ill or even fully ill like you described. So we have to say thank you for taking the net and doing what you do. On this end, your audio is great. I can't even tell you're sick, except you say you are. But just thank you for taking the net and running it so well, being under the weather. AA0RX.
Well, I appreciate the kind words, and I did get a number of emails wishing me well, and, I did give up. On last Thursday, I just could not get through this, and so Bob W6KD kindly volunteered in a way to run it, and I still appreciate his occasional stewardship here. I just hate calling in sick for the roundtable because you miss so much. Because I learn a lot, and I enjoy doing this. It's become somewhat routine for me, but still, it's a grind if you don't feel good, and that happens from time to time. So, anyway, anything further before we end it? If not, then we will. But if so, then we won't. Let's see how it goes. Stations, please key up. Well, nothing being seen or heard means that we're done. I want to thank everyone who keyed up, because without your participation, there would be no roundtable. I am not going to run through the litany I normally do, even though I think much of it is important. Just remember, please, that if you have something new that you want to start on the shout box, you might want to let it run. I'm sorry, you might want to wait a little bit until we're able to clear out what's there, because we grab everything, even those posts that God, I'm so tired. It may have scrolled off the screen, but we moved that up to the shout box, open up with a clean slate, and then you can post things there, including suggestions for topics. And if you are listening to a taped version of this net and have a comment to throw out, especially if you can't join us directly, the shout box is a great place to put it. You're also welcome to email me at n6hkh@me.com. It's me.com. Without further ado, though, we're done. I'm going to head down the hall, and I doubt seriously I'll be back later on tonight, but I should be around tomorrow after the doctor's appointment, because I do miss D-STAR, especially when I'm not around to participate because I'm tied up with doctors. So, everyone, have a great weekend. Keep your powder dry, and we'll talk to you on D-STAR. N6HKH. Good night.
Good night, John Boy, and 3WZU.
W6KD, if you're still there, this is K6JL.